there's so much noise out there for parents.
A lot of the time, content that is shared is actually inaccurate. Parents are desperately seeking ways to be better, to ensure that we have strong, secure, resilient kids. It comes at a cost as well. There is an expense of this.
It's quite easy to get into this trap of like self-doubt.
We don't want it to come at the expense of losing one's confidence in one's own ability.
The amounts of information that is out there is just phenomenal and exponential.
Hold on, what am I reading here?
You are the best parent for your child.
There's no better expert on their child than themselves.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Let's Talk Baby. For those of you that have watched our introduction episode, we hope that you've just got to know us a little bit. But I'm Kath Megaw. I'm a pediatric dietitian, and I'm so excited to be joined by Sammy, who's a speech pathologist and our feed-in therapist, and Dr. Jenny Rose, who's a clinical psychologist. Welcome, ladies. It's so lovely to have us all together for our first episode. Isn't this exciting?
Amazing. Thank you so much for having us, Kath, and just so excited to be here and hopefully empowering parents and supporting parents along the way.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Hi, Kath. I mirror exactly what Jenny says. It's a very exciting time together.
Yeah, so I just thought for our first episode, what would be really great, and we've been chatting about, is just there's so much noise out there for parents navigating this parenting journey, and different platforms for them to get information from, which can be really valuable. And we are obviously using one of those platforms, so we're not against it at all. But I think just to, maybe we can start with you, Jenny. Just how would we help parents to just navigate? What little tips could you think would be helpful when a parent comes across information about a particular topic related to parenting on social media, particularly social media? Maybe just give us a few of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Kath, I think it is such an important topic, because I think the beauty and the wonderful part of where we are now is that parents are desperately seeking ways to be better, to ensure that we have strong, secure, resilient kids. We're doing all that we can to raise a generation that's different to previous generations. And we need to applaud parents for really being at the forefront of this change. But it comes at a cost as well. There is an expense of this. And that is often, firstly, navigating the overwhelming messages that there are about what we should be doing. And secondly, often the sense of failure or perhaps guilt in when we don't achieve these things. And I think that's my biggest takeaway for parents, that while it's incredible that we have access to all of this information and we have so much knowledge at our fingertips, we have expert and professional inputs, which is such a wonderful thing to be able to have, we don't want it to come at the expense of losing one's confidence in one's own ability. I say to parents all the time that there's no better expert on their child than themselves. And I really believe we have a strong intuitive response. And sometimes that intuition needs some guidance and some navigating, some softening around the edges. But we need to also be able to look inwards at our own capacity to manage and navigate the struggles of parenthood, and not always turn to the outside, because we actually often lose faith in ourselves. And so it's about finding that balance, getting the input from the professionals to guide you to navigate this path, to kind of lay the road or lay the foundation, but as a parent, for you to truly walk the steps yourself.
Thanks, Jenny. I really like that, because I think it's going back to your intuition. You do know best. And I love the way you phrased it, just using kind of the advice and that more to just guide you, but not to be that voice or replace that intuitive moment that you have, And I find in practice that parents will often know actually what to do. They just need permission to kind of go, okay, this is the right way and this is the right path to take and to go on. Just from your side, Sammy, obviously being pregnant with your first child and that, just some perspective just to kind of put us in the shoes of a lot of the parents who will be following us and watching our podcasts and that. What have you felt on your journey of pregnancy to be some of the overwhelming moments of the noise out there, and maybe some of the more helpful moments of the noise? If you can just give us maybe one or two examples.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of noise nowadays. I think there's a lot of information. There's also a lot of opinions, which is great, because everybody is entitled to opinions. But it's shared a lot on our social media platforms, which obviously everybody is very tech savvy and all on social media these days. So even as a new mom, I can get overwhelmed sometimes, and I've got a background in as a health professional, so I think when you get bombarded with all these differing opinions, and like in my instance, labor this way and this is how birth is going to go, and it can be quite overwhelming and actually make you quite panicky, because it can create a lot of fear and anxiety, and I don't think that that's what people are trying to do. But I think with all the sort of differing opinions and differing advice, it's quite easy to get into this trap of like self-doubt, and all the things that you had, let's say, researched or read up about and were quite confident about, you now start sort of second guessing yourself, because you're seeing these maybe a different piece of advice compared to what you had planned or what you believe. So I think, a big thing is you have to take it within context, because I also find that there's, because of social media being so wonderful with us being able to, share everything, it also doesn't put boundaries on what advice is evidence-based or coming from a medical professional background, speaking now in our context, and so you've got to kind of filter out and say to yourself, okay, hold on, what am I reading here? Is this something that is evidence-based, or that comes from research, or that comes from a healthcare professional, a pediatrician, a doctor, a dietitian, a psychologist? Where is this information stemming from, or is it just based on somebody's experience, which is wonderful if somebody is sharing an experience, because that's for them, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen to you, or the same applies to you. So I think it's having to sift through all this noise that is on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Twitter and whatever it is. Even mommy groups as well. And there's a lot of mommy groups. So you have to, sift through the noise and see what's applicable. And I think the sort of best way is to, check the references, or check where the source is coming from, and then check with your healthcare providers. So if there's something that I'm in doubt about, say, for example, about birth or labor, at my next gynae appointment, I'd follow it up with her and, make notes of it and just check it with her. And then at least I know that I've got my sort of sound advice.
I love that.
I think, sorry, Kath, but just
no
I think
problem.
It's profound what you're saying, Sammy. And I think, we see so many different people who are advocating for certain things. And while I think most of them are very well intentioned, there is often query in the content that they are sharing. And it does come down to qualifications and professional training and that sort of thing. And so it's not ill-intentioned, it's not meant to be malicious, but a lot of the time content that is shared is actually inaccurate. And so it's so hard for parents to discern this. But I think exactly what you've said, to be guided by the professional training and to be guided by a lot of the time what the research and the experience is saying. And then exactly that, if there are any doubts, to actually take it up and follow up with people who do know and who are in the discipline or in this field that you could consult.
Yeah, I love that. And I just remember when I had my child, first child, we didn't have obviously the bombardments of social media like there is today, but still I was advised to filter information I got through one or two trusted sources. And I think that's even more important today because I still had a lot of information coming my way, but it was nothing at the quantity that there is today. And so I still think it's so helpful to find your trusted source and be guided by that, a professional or a trusted, parent, if it's something in the line like your mother who, you've got a good relationship with. And I've noticed that what's quite sad for me, and I don't know if you have seen it in your different fields, is just the voice of the mother, often in the kind of who used to be that person assisting and kind of guiding, has got quieter and quieter and quieter, and the social kind of voice has got a lot louder. And I think there's still a lot of value in going back to mother's voice and mother-in-law, and I know that can cause its own challenges, but I do think that if that is available and the relationship is healthy, I still think those voices are very helpful in the parenting process.
Without a doubt. And I think part of that is not even just perhaps some wisdom that they could share or, the confidence, the lack of anxiety that they might have, but actually around the fact that it is a person that you're engaging with. And that's what we forget when we think we are consuming information from social media. It's one-dimensional, it's one-sided because it's coming from one person. And so what we know about parenthood is that more than anything, we need support. We need an ear. We need someone to sort of vent to. We need to get input from people. And so that is part of a relationship, and being able to say, this is where I'm struggling. We know that parenthood, and especially early days, postpartum, parents are really at risk for, or especially moms are really at risk for a lot of mental health difficulties. And so we need to make sure we have the relational side there to offer that support. We're able to access that purely from social media. And while groups and things are helpful, it's not the same as having an in-person solid relationship.
Yeah, I love that. Sammy, from the point of view of from your as being a lactation consultant, which I didn't mention right in the beginning, but you are also a lactation consultant. What do you come across as some of the common misconceptions about breastfeeding when you deal with these new moms that are kind of wanting to start the journey? Do you find that there's a leaning more towards a desire to breastfeed, or do you feel that people are fearing breastfeeding more than maybe what it was in the past?
I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I think that on one hand, moms are getting empowered to breastfeed. There's a lot of, successful breastfeeding stories that have been shared, as well as a lot of promotion to get help. So to see a lactation consultant, pre-birth and in the early days post-birth, to say that there is help there. So moms are feeling empowered to breastfeed, which is wonderful. But then at the same time, on the other side of things, I think there's also a lot of fear, because again, there's noise about breastfeeding, and it's wonderful. A lot of moms share their success stories, but also, as we know, breastfeeding can be hard and it can be challenging. And there's some moms that it comes naturally to them, and they don't necessarily struggle, but I find that that's only a handful of moms. Lots of mommies do struggle, and I think when they see this mom had such a wonderful journey, and then I think they then almost just feel, okay, well, it's not right for me, or it hasn't happened to me, and there's a lot of on the other side of things, there can be quite a lot of fear because of the noise of breastfeeding. So I think it goes both ways. I think there's amazing support and promotion for getting breastfeeding support. But at the same time, with the noise, like we've discussed, it can also create a lot of fear and anxiety around the breastfeeding journey.
Yeah, and I think that kind of follows through, if when they're going to introduce in solids, which is an area I work a lot in, and just kind of also the amounts of information that is out there is just phenomenal and exponential, to the point where I think it's got to the point where there's so much information that there's almost like no more information, if that makes sense, because the information is not consistent, and the information is done in so many varied ways that the parents actually feel that they're like, okay, I've got all this information, but I don't actually know what to do. And it's something that I've really found increased over the last few years, is just this overwhelming sense of all this info and I don't know what to do. And I don't know, Jenny, if you just have a nugget as we kind of draw this to a close on just maybe with your wisdom and in your field, what would you say would be the most helpful thing for a parent to do when it comes to just trying to navigate an overwhelming sense of information on any field of parenting?
I think the key thing is to check one's own response to things. So, we're very tempted to start following a lot of different accounts that seem to give us all the information, and we see it as improving our parenting, helping our kids, supporting our kids. But we've got to check our own responses. And if you find yourself actually becoming more anxious, perhaps after you've spent time on social media, if you find yourself doubting yourself as a parent or feeling like a failure because you're not living up to what is being portrayed on this, this platform, or if you even find that you're sort of losing confidence in your own abilities, it's time to check in firstly with your own response, and then to do a sort of clearing out and a sorting. It's so important that, just like we say to people in relationships in real life, that you should surround yourself with people that make you feel better, that contribute meaningfully to your life, that you have good relationships with. You are the company you keep kind of philosophy. It's a similar attitude to our approach to information overwhelm as parents. We really need to say which accounts or which sources of information make me feel empowered, encourage me to be a better parent, make me want to bring about change, instill a sense of confidence, and which are those that actually leave me feeling worse off than before, and really to clear out and filter those.
Oh, I love that. I think that's such a lovely place to end. And I think, yes, moms and dads out there, you are the best parent for your child, and you do intuitively have the answers inside of you. So use helpful experts to guide some of those feelings and decisions, but don't be overwhelmed. And as Jenny says, find out what makes you feel good as a parent, because it's those platforms and it's those type of follow-ins and advice that you want to really hold on to and focus on, versus those that make you feel less than or those that make you doubt yourself. So we really hope you enjoyed this first podcast today. We look forward to many more with you. Thank you so much, Sammy, for your amazing insights as always. And thank you, Jenny, as well, just for bringing your area of expertise, which is so valuable. So thank you, both of you.
Thanks, Kath.
Thanks, Kath. See you next time.